Okay, the next thing we're going to add in our project is some bad guys. We need some monsters to be able to shoot at. Also, I'm going to take this bullet because when we run it, it looks a little tacky that it just shoots across the screen. And I'm going to move that off the edge. And since it automatically gets destroyed outside the layout, it's going to get destroyed as soon as the game starts running. So next what I'm going to do is create a monster. So I'm going to double click, create a new sprite. So scroll down to General, select Sprite, name that Monster, and hit Insert. Place that up on the top edge, and then I'm going to load the monster image, and then close this. The monster has one behavior, so I'm going to go to Behaviors, and click Add New Behavior. Scroll down to Movement, I'm going to add Bullet Movement. 400 is pretty fast, it's faster than the player, so we're going to slow that down to 200 instead. So we leave that on the screen and run it. It was about that fast, so we're a little bit faster, we'll be able to move out of its way. But you'll see that the monster just keeps going once it gets off the edge of the screen. So we're going to fix that by heading over to the event sheet. So our event now is going to be when our monster leaves the layout. So add event, we're going to look for an event involving the monster object, so next. And then we're going to do when it's outside the layout. So we're going to type outside. And you see is outside layout. That's exactly what I want. So anytime the monster's outside the layout, I'm going to have it point at the player. So just like how we had player set angle toward mouse X, mouse Y, I'm now going to have the monster set its angle toward position, and this is going to be player.x, player.y. So PLA, and then make sure you double click so that your capitalization matches, dot, and then this list is really long, so you probably need to do the X to find it, and do the same thing here, player.y, double click, make sure it's capitalized, hit done. Now when I run that, you're going to see that once the monster goes off the edge here, they're going to turn and come down toward me and go straight through the middle of my player. And then once they go off the bottom edge, they're going to come back and go straight through the middle of my player again. Now we need to be able to shoot the monster. So that's going to be when we have a collision between the bullet and the monster. Now we can only click so fast, so there's probably a maximum of 10 or 20 bullets we might be able to get on screen at a time, but we could have a lot more monsters. So it'll be faster for your game to check if the bullet has a collision with the monster than having the monster check for a collision with the bullet. So we're going to choose bullet, next, and then we want to do a collision check. So on collision with another object, next, and we want to check for the monster. And then hit done. So anytime the bullet hits the monster, we want to destroy the bullet. So we're going to go to bullet, destroy. So if I ran that right now, anytime I shoot it, it goes away. And then we also want the monster to be destroyed. So monster, TES for destroy. And now I can shoot the monster and it goes away. But now there's not any monsters left, so the game becomes boring. So we need new monsters to show up. So I'm going to add a timer so that new monsters can spawn every so often. So we're going to add a new global variable. So you can use the add in the bottom right to add a global variable, or you can right click on the bottom and do add global variable. They both do the same thing. And I'm going to name this monster timer. It's a good idea to name your variables so that you don't forget what they're doing. And I'm going to have it start off as 5. And this will allow new monsters to spawn every 5 seconds. You might think, well, why don't I just have it do every 5? Well, by doing a variable, I can have this change to 4.9, 4.8, and have it become faster and faster. So by making it a variable, the timer can vary. So now our event needs to be a timer. So I'm going to add an event That's not any particular object, so that's going to be system. And then we want every X seconds. So I'm going to type seconds. Then you'll see every X seconds, but instead of X, we're going to use monster timer. So I'm going to make sure I double click my variable so that it's spelled correctly. Now every monster timer seconds, which is currently 5, we're going to create new monsters. Now this is going to be created from the system also. We don't want it to be created from any of our objects because they might go away. You might, if you have different levels, the background could go away. Depending on how you do game overs, the player could go away. So we're going to go a system object so that it's nice and safe. And then we're going to do create object. And we want to create a monster object on layer 0. And then we need to choose the X and Y coordinates. So I really want to create 4 monsters. One at the top, one at the left, one at the bottom, and one at the right edge of the screen. So we'll do the top first. So the Y coordinate for the top is 0, but I want them to show up off the edge of the screen so I don't see like half of a monster just show up. So I'm going to put minus 100 so that he is off the top edge. Now I want him to be able to be anywhere along that top edge, so I need to do a random number. So that's random, and then in parentheses you can either do a starting number and an ending number, so like 0, comma, since our layout was like 1708, I could do that. But what would be better, since our layout could change, would be to put the variable in. Now, if you only put one number in, it's from 0 to that number. So you'll see random 0, you'll say that it's from 0 to 1 less than this value. So I'm going to put in just one number, but instead of putting a number, I'm going to put in layout W for width. That way, if your game ever gets resized, or maybe your levels have different sizes, then this will always work. So I'm going to click done. And then for the bottom, instead of recreating that, I'm just going to copy that. So right click copy, right click paste. Make sure that you allow this for your browser. You can either do until you close this site, or if you trust the site, you can do forever. So now I have a second one doing the exact same, but instead of doing Y value at 0 minus 100, I really want the maximum value, which is layout height. And then instead of minus 100, I want plus 100, so it goes 100 lower than the bottom. And then click done. So now I need to do the left and right edge. So I'm going to copy and paste one of those. I'll take this first one, copy with Control C, paste with Control V, and I'm going to double click that. So now, since I'm doing the X, that's going to be 0 for X for the left edge, and then minus 100. So do that, minus 100. And then the Y is where our random is going to be. So I'm going to type random. And then that's going to be the layout height is going to be the maximum value. So layout height. Remember, that'll be from 0, which is the top edge, down to the layout height, which would be the bottom value. Then hit done. And then copy and paste that. For the right edge, Y is going to be exactly the same between 0 and the bottom. And then X, instead of 0 minus 100, we're going to do layout width plus 100. And hit done. And then when we run that, after a few seconds, more of them should show up, one from each direction. So there's our 4, and then 5 seconds later, 1, 2, 3, 4. You notice that they're not coming from the exact same position, but we do get a top, a left, a right, and a bottom each time.